Hi, this is Jody with Some Reasons, and today on this episode of What the Heck Are You Drinking? We're going to do something a little bit different. This is going to be the NFL Week 1 recap. So, just to be clear, this has nothing to do with yardage or statistics or anything like that. It has everything to do with what I saw and how I felt and what I needed to drink after watching those games, whether for the good, the bad, the ugly, or the entertaining. So, on this episode of What the Heck Are You Drinking? Week 1 NFL series. So, our season opener with the Eagles. Watching the Eagles play is always a lot of fun. We love seeing Jalen Hurts. We love seeing how the O line does. The defense tends to show up. However, it was a little dicey in the beginning with the spitting in the face, the ejection of the game, a little bit of the scuffle. There's a lot of attitude on the field, which is honestly typical Philadelphia. My mom's from Philly. I'm from Pennsylvania. I go from one end to the other, so I understand it. And watching the Eagles play, they had an attitude that just made me think about Hennessy. But not any Hennessy drink, right? I thought about the incredible Hennessy one because the Eagles have come such a long way. And they did end up winning. And the incredible Hennessy is actually a really good drink. It has Hennessy, Hypnotic, Maduri, lemon juice. So, one of those like nut if you buck type of things. That's exactly what I think about with the Eagles. So they hopefully will have a calmer next game. But if not, it's the personality of Philadelphia coming through. We love to see it. We love to see them play. I can't wait to see what type of cocktail or beverage they're going to make me think of next week in week 2. But it's always fun to watch. Maybe have some better sportsmanlike conduct. But if not, we'll see how it goes, right? It was fun to watch. So we'll see how they do in week 2. Cowboys Nation. Cowboys Nation. So the Cowboys played in the season opener as well. They did not take that W. Can't say we're surprised. However, they have a loyal following. And watching them play and watching their fans and the aftermath of their fans losing was really, really interesting. So seeing all that made me think of Casamigos Blanco, which I tend to see in the Margarita Light. The reason why I say that is because Casamigos people are very brand loyal. People are very brand loyal to the Dallas Cowboys. Casamigos has additives to it. So it's not as pure as you think it is. We can say the same thing about Dallas. However, in the Margarita Light, you're not getting the full potential, the full flavor of it because it's just, lighter in calories. Again, Dallas played like they were lighter in calories. And at the end of the day, they didn't win. So, and then maybe pair them together because Dallas fans are very much that way with Casamigos. And it seemed to match. They're brand loyal, but at the end of the day, you need a different tequila that has more body, more potential, better fulfillment in order to get you through the rest of your night. And I feel like the Dallas Cowboys at this point in the season, just game 1, they're right there. We need a little bit more. And with the tequila, instead of Casamigos, we want a different one because we want a little bit more. The next game I want to talk to you about is the LA Chargers. They were in beautiful Brazil and Sao Paulo, and I have to tell you, Brazil is one of my favorite places to go visit. So the LA Chargers, they ended up taking the W. They looked like they were alive out there. They had fun. They won. And that made me think of the Brazilian national drink, the caipirinha, which is beautiful. It's made with cachaça, which is like the Brazilian version of rum, made with sugar cane, not with molasses. And it has a very nice tinge of sweetness to it. So after watching the Chargers win, seeing them play and have fun, they had a really nice halftime show as well. Even though the singer's from Colombia and not Brazilian, we're going to let it go. But the caipirinha definitely made me happy. I definitely wanted to have one. And watching them play definitely made me want to dance a little samba. But it was a great game. Let's see how they're going to do in week 2. So the Carolina Panthers. Carolina Panthers a complicated had complicated seasons after Cam Newton had left, and they have been in a constant rebuilding state, right? To the point where after a couple seasons, I think like 2 years ago or even last year, the tickets at the end of the season were like $1 to go. So with that being said, the Panthers have a long way to go, right? A long way to improve or a lot of opportunity to show who they are and to develop their own strategy. However, this week one, they threw some key interceptions that led to the other team scoring that ultimately led to their defeat. So watching them play, and I want them to do better because Lord knows seeing a team that's continuously losing is really hard. Remember the Lions a couple years ago? Enough said, right? So watching them, there's a drink called the Interception, and it's really interesting. It's a blend of sweet and savory, And there were some sweet moments, when they were able to score, and there were some savory moments that you're like, well, at least it's beautiful outside for right now. So hopefully in week 2 they're going to do a little bit better. But I definitely thought about the drink interception, because those interceptions that they made were key to their demise, no, to their loss. So hopefully in week 2 they're going to do a little bit better, and we'll see them develop some different strategies, and we'll graduate to some other drinks that are a little bit more on the positive side for them. But we'll see what they do. So another one of my favorite places to go to is Miami. However, I don't think we can say that Miami played their best in week 1. So Miami, beautiful, sunny, a lot of vibes, right? You think about all the cultures, great place. The team, not so much. They played a little bit soft. So as I'm watching them play and checking the highlights and everything, they didn't score till the fourth quarter. And this was very close to being a 0, right? And who wants to have 0 points ever, let alone the first week? So as I saw how they were playing, and they were just, bubbly, and they tried really hard, but not that hard, it made me think of a white wine spritzer, right? So, white wine, club soda. Some people like to do tonic, depending on how you want to do it. And maybe just some fruit in there to keep it fun and lively. And that's kind of how I felt when I was watching them play. I wanted them to score. They did try. There was no gusto behind them, right? Just like a white wine spritzer, it's light, it's easy. It is one of those that you just get when you don't really want to try too hard, and you don't want to have a long night. That's exactly how I felt with Miami. So hopefully we'll figure it out. They're still fun to watch. Maybe we'll graduate to something a little bit stronger next week, but we'll see what we can do. Next game I want to talk with you about is the Baltimore Ravens versus the Buffalo Bills. Now, that was truly a Sunday night game that made me think, wow, this is really football. So with the Ravens, unfortunately, they did take that L. Final 2 minutes was really telling. It looked like the team gave up. However, although the other team scored 16 points in the final 2 minutes, this brewed the perfect storm. And that's exactly what I thought of when I saw Lamar's face at the end. To me, he said, this is never going to happen again. And truth be told, I actually believe it. So Buffalo coming back so rapidly, so quickly, so intensely, definitely made me think that this brewed the perfect storm for the Ravens to either show up or show out. So we're going to see how they do this season. But this game definitely set the tone for the rest of their season. So hopefully we'll have a little bit better of a drink for next week. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, the city of champions, right? They have a veteran quarterback, which is a little controversial, right, as Aaron Rodgers. I personally would have been ready to see Aaron retire, but here we are. We have a beautiful veteran coach, Mike Tomlin, that is doing his best to keep the team afloat, and hopefully they will make it to the playoffs this year. So watching them play against the Jets, granted, the Steelers did win by 2 points, and they probably should not have. It just made me think of something that's classic and timeless that honestly a lot of bartenders want to do away with. Like, we would like to see certain people retire, but they're still here. It made me think of the Long Island iced tea. Long Island iced tea is just one of those accidents that happens, and people still drink them. It still takes quite a bit to make them. And, it's a veteran drink. You can really not go wrong with it, but you're fine if you don't have it. That's kind of how it was watching Aaron Rodgers play. Granted, I think he may be a good fit for the Steelers, but watching him play, I want some different blood, We're ready to see the next era of quarterbacks be ushered in, and he's still holding on. So, hopefully this will be a good season for him. But, let's see what else we can do with some other of the younger players, because we need the vets to retire just like we like to retire this Long Island. The next team I want to talk to you about are the New York Jets. Now, in classic Jets fashion, they're almost there. They almost win. They almost score. They almost do a lot of things. Unfortunately, they did not take the W. However, Justin Fields, his first time back in Pittsburgh after leaving the team, was very, very good. He showed up on the field. He made his presence known, and it was really fun to see him play. However, because they almost win, and honestly, they gave the game away. They really should have won. They did outplay the Steelers. It made me think of the cocktail, Almost Famous. So Almost Famous has Jamaican rum and yellow chartreuse, and also has Aperol, and you can use lemon or lime juice. So this one has a lot of flavor, a lot of potential. you can do a lot with it, whether adding an extra shot or adding, different lemon or lime, and you can really juice it up. Unfortunately, with the Jets, they're just almost there. So hopefully in the upcoming weeks, they're going to have some definites coming up and they'll have a great season. So we'll see what they do. Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills truly killed it this weekend. In the final 2 minutes, they scored, I think, 16 points and they won by 1 point. Now, we all know what happened with the Ravens and how that looked on that side. However, the Buffalo Bills fans were ecstatic. And in fact, I was ecstatic because it felt like football was back. I had already gone to bed and I got a phone call saying, Jay, you need to go ahead and open up the TV back up, go ahead and turn it back on and finish watching this game with me. I said, okay, yeah, no problem. And I am so happy I did. At the end of the game, it was just so shocking, surprising, and fun. Everybody was laughing. Well, not Ravens fans. However, it made me think of this cocktail, the Witty Comeback. So the Witty Comeback has rye whiskey, it has Amaro, it has a lot of personality. And granted, whether you're laughing to keep from crying or laughing because it was joyful, this comeback was definitely witty and unprecedented. So we're excited to see what the Buffalo Bills are going to do in week 2. The next team I want to talk about are the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, Cincinnati 100% stole this game. They had a division game. It was them against the Cleveland Browns, and they ended up winning by 1 point. It was a tight game. Nobody scored in the fourth quarter. However, watching them play, and they were outplayed in every single stat, every single thing. And at the end, they still pulled it out. I was like, well, I guess why not? It's Ohio. So there's a drink actually called Why Not, and it's actually really good. It has bourbon, Cointreau, lemon and lime juice, and I think another ingredient. And it really was fitting to watch them play because, like I said, it's Ohio. Cleveland, we want them to be good. We'll see what happens. And Joe Burrow has a lot of potential. So we hope that he turns the potential energy into kinetic energy and we can have a more positive drink to talk about or even a full bottle about something, right? To see how they develop on the field. So I guess why not? Because all is fair in love and football. We'll see how they do in week 2. Thank you for tuning in to What the Heck Are You Drinking? Week 1 NFL recap. We had some really great teams and some teams that are just trying to figure out what they're doing. I'm excited for week 2 to see exactly what we'll be drinking then. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week and we'll see you at the week 2 recap. Cheers.